All right, let's get ready to dive into something that I think we can all relate to, especially if you're spending a lot of time at a desk. Proper posture. We've got this lecture all lined up, and I'm really hoping it'll give us some good tips on, not just avoiding back pain, but also like staying productive and just feeling better overall.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing how much of an impact our posture can have on our overall well-being. It's not just about looking good.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm definitely guilty of slouching over my laptop way more than I should. So let's see what this lecture says about proper posture, especially for desk workers. What's the first thing it talks about?
Well, it really emphasizes the importance of a neutral spine. It even uses this cool analogy. Imagine a plumb line, one of those weighted strings running straight down from your ear, through your shoulder and hip, all the way to your ankle. That's the alignment we're going for.
Okay, that's a good visual, like everything's stacked up nice and straight.
Mm.
But what does it mean to have a neutral spine? Is it like being stiff as a board?
Not at all. You see, your spine naturally has these curves. There's the cervical curve in your neck, the thoracic curve in your upper back, and the lumbar curve in your lower back. And a neutral spine just means those curves are supported and balanced, so it forms this nice S shape.
Ah, like an S. Gotcha. So it's not about being perfectly straight. It's more about maintaining the natural shape of the spine.
Precisely. It's kind of like a suspension bridge. The curves actually make it stronger and more flexible.
That makes a lot of sense. So when we slouch, we're basically messing with that natural architecture, right? But let's be real, we've all been guilty of some bad posture habits, especially when we're glued to our screens. I catch myself with tech neck all the time, head practically in the computer.
Oh, yeah. The lecture calls out all the usual suspects. Slouching, forward head posture, crossing your legs, leaning to one side, even just sitting for hours on end without getting up. It's like a laundry list of postural sins.
So out of all of those, which ones does it say are the most common? And are there any surprises in terms of their impact?
I think slouching and that tech neck, like you mentioned, are probably the most prevalent these days, especially with so many people working on computers and staring at their phones, right? But what might surprise you is that these seemingly small things can actually have a big impact on your overall health. It's not just about back pain.
Really, wait, there's more. I'm kind of scared to ask. What else does it mention?
Well, it talks about muscle fatigue, chronic pain, headaches, and even, get this, digestive issues, and even reduced cognitive function.
Hold on, back up a second. Reduced cognitive function. You mean like my brain power? That's a little freaky.
It is. It's because when you slouch, you're restricting your breathing, right? And that limits the oxygen flow to your brain. So that can lead to fatigue, brain fog, and trouble concentrating. But when you have good posture, you're optimizing your oxygen intake so you can stay alert and focused. Think about it, like nailing that big presentation because you're sitting up straight and your brain's getting all the oxygen it needs.
Wow, that's a game changer. I never thought about it like that. So those afternoon slumps I get might be more about my posture than the actual work itself.
It very well could be, but it gets even more serious. The lecture lists some pretty scary stuff like herniated discs, sciatica, and even deep vein thrombosis, DVT, as potential risks of prolonged sitting and bad posture.
Okay, now I'm really paying attention. Herniated disc sounds super painful. What's actually happening in our bodies when we get that?
Well, picture this. Your spinal discs are like jelly donuts. When you slouch, you're putting all this extra pressure on those discs, and that can cause the jelly, that soft inner part to push out and press on your nerves, and that's what causes the pain. That's a herniated disc.
Okay, wow. That image is definitely sticking with me. I'm starting to realize that slouching isn't just a bad habit, it's like a health hazard.
Yeah, it's definitely something to be mindful of, but, don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. The lecture also talks about some solutions, like standing desks, for example. Those have gotten really popular lately, haven't they? Have you thought about trying one?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've been curious about those. Are they really like a miracle cure for back pain, or is there more to it?
Well, the lecture actually cautions against thinking of them as like a magic bullet. Standing desks can definitely help with back pain, and they do encourage movement, but standing all day long can actually cause its own problems. Things like foot pain, varicose veins, even stiffness in other parts of your body.
Ah, so it's not as simple as just ditching our chairs and standing all the time. So what's the answer then? Moderation, maybe?
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance between sitting and standing. So maybe try something like a sit-stand desk so you can switch positions throughout the day, or even just make sure you take regular breaks to stand up and move around.
That makes sense. What about those posture correction devices you see advertised everywhere? Do those actually work, or are they just kind of a Band-Aid solution?
That's a good question. The lecture talks about those too, and it suggests taking a balanced approach, really. Some devices, like posture braces, can be helpful as reminders, but they shouldn't be a crutch. The real solution is to strengthen your core muscles naturally, so you're supporting your spine from within, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It's like using training wheels on a bike.
Yeah.
They can be helpful at first, but eventually you need to learn to ride on your own.
And speaking of support, what about ergonomic chairs? Does the lecture mention those? Are they worth the investment?
It does, it does. It also talks about this whole idea of active sitting, using things like stability balls or kneeling chairs to engage your core muscles while you're sitting. But ultimately, it suggests that the best chair is the one that works best for you. Some people find ergonomic chairs super supportive, while others might prefer something more dynamic, like active sitting. It really depends. There's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to posture. Okay, but let's move on to the good stuff. What are some actionable steps we can take right now to improve our posture?
Well, the lecture gives a bunch of great tips, and luckily a lot of them are pretty easy to implement. First up is setting up an ergonomic workstation. So that means investing in an adjustable chair, making sure your monitor is at eye level, and using a footrest if your feet don't comfortably touch the floor.
Okay, got it. Ergonomic setup. I have definitely been guilty of neglecting that in the past. But what about throughout the day? Are there any quick things we can do to, like, fix our posture?
Oh, absolutely. There's this great little trick called the 20-20-20 rule. Basically, every 20 minutes, you take a 20-second break to look at something 20 feet away. It helps reduce eye strain, but it also gives you a chance to check your posture and reset.
Oh, that's a good one. Easy to remember, too. I'm going to start doing that. Any other tips for breaking those bad posture habits?
Definitely. Just try to move around more. Even standing up and stretching for a couple of minutes each hour can make a big difference for your posture and for your overall well-being. Maybe set a timer on your phone to remind yourself.
You know what? I'm going to do that right now. No
Yeah.
more excuses for sitting for hours on end. What about specific exercises? Does it recommend any?
It does. It recommends exercises that target your core muscles, your back, and your shoulders. Things like planks, rows, shoulder blade squeezes. You don't even need a gym for those. You can do most of them right at your desk or at home.
Awesome. I could already feel my posture improving just thinking about it. What else does the lecture highlight?
One of the biggest takeaways is the importance of mindfulness. It's not enough to just know what good posture is. You have to actually be aware of your body throughout the day and make those small adjustments as you go. Catch yourself when you're slouching or hunching your shoulders and gently correct it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having that little voice in your head reminding you to sit up straight. And the lecture says that that kind of mindfulness, that constant awareness, is really the key to making lasting changes. Speaking of changes, it actually ends with a few actionable takeaways to help us make good posture a habit.
Let's hear them. I'm all about turning knowledge into action.
All right, so first things first, take a moment to actually assess your posture right now. How are you sitting? Are your shoulders hunched? Is your head jutting forward? That kind of thing. It's important to be aware of your starting point.
Yeah, like taking inventory before you go grocery shopping. You need to know what you're working with. So what's next?
Next, you got to make sure your workstation is set up for success. We talked about this earlier, but it's super important. A good chair, proper monitor height, making sure your keyboard and mouse are positioned correctly, all those little things can make a difference.
I'm actually adjusting my chair as we speak. I can already feel a difference. What else is on the list?
Don't forget about those movement breaks. Set a timer to remind yourself to get up and stretch or walk around for at least 5 minutes every hour. Your body will thank you.
Done. I set a recurring alarm on my phone. No more excuses. We also talked about incorporating some exercises, right?
Definitely. Adding some core and back strengthening exercises to your routine can do wonders for your posture. Even a few minutes each day can help.
Perfect. I've got some workout videos bookmarked and ready to go, feeling motivated to make this a regular thing.
Mm.
And then last but not least, that mindfulness piece, right?
Right. Remember, be aware of your body throughout the day. Notice if you're slouching or holding tension and adjust. It's all about building those new habits.
Like having an internal posture coach, always keeping you in check. This deep dive has been amazing. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of just how important posture is, and I actually feel empowered to make some positive changes.
I'm so glad to hear that. It really is amazing how something so simple can make such a huge difference in how we feel, both physically and mentally.
Totally. And what I love is that it's never too late to start. Even if you've been a sloucher your whole life, you can still improve with a little effort. This lecture has been a fantastic roadmap.
I agree. And one of the things I really appreciate about it is that it emphasizes how personal posture is. What works for one person might not work for another, so it's all about finding what feels best for you.
Exactly. No one-size-fits-all approach. We all have different bodies and different needs. The important thing is to listen to our bodies and figure out what helps us feel our best. Speaking of feeling our best, I think the lecture leaves us with something interesting to think about, doesn't it?
It does. It asks us to consider how posture might affect not just our physical health, but also our mood, our confidence, even how other people see us.
That's so interesting. I've never really thought about it like that before, like the psychological and social side of posture.
There's actually a lot of research out there that suggests that our posture can influence how we feel about ourselves, how confident we are, and even how others perceive our competence and trustworthiness.
Whoa, seriously. So if I stand up straight and project confidence through my posture, it could actually change how people interact with me.
Exactly. It's like a nonverbal cue that you're confident and in control.
That's incredible. I'm seeing posture in a whole new light now. It's not just about physical health. It's about how we present ourselves to the world and how we feel about ourselves.
Absolutely. And I think that's a pretty powerful message to take away from this deep dive.
I couldn't agree more. This has been such a great experience, so enlightening. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on posture and how it impacts our lives.
Me too. I hope our listeners feel the same way. Remember, good posture is an investment in your well-being, your long-term health and happiness.
It really is a gift you give yourself. And on that note, a huge thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this journey into the world of proper posture. We hope you found it informative, engaging, and most of all, empowering.
It's been a pleasure diving into this topic with you.
Likewise. Now go forth and stand tall, everyone. Your spines will thank you for it.